What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Young Guns podcast in 2023. We hope you guys had a fantastic New Year's, and a Christmas as well. But let's get back to business. Today, we're going to be talking about the Carolina Hurricanes going on an 11-game winning streak. Once they hit 10 games in a row, they set a new franchise record. The Carolina Hurricanes are currently first in the Metropolitan, and there's a lot to talk about, especially that Martin Nikas is their leading point getter
Yep.
on this roster. And it's not Svechnikov or Aho, which is surprising. And a player that they acquired during the offseason is set to make his debut very soon. And that
Yep.
is Max Pacioretty, who tore his Achilles and was out for 6 months. And this team is going to get an upgrade and probably another upgrade or a couple of more upgrades during the road to the 2023 trade deadline because they are looking for a center. So, Luca, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on the Carolina Hurricanes and why are they so good?
Well, first of all, let's start off with one thing that you didn't mention, which is the fact that their goaltending has been absolutely spectacular. But not only has their goaltending been spectacular, their defense has been really, really solid. This is a team that lost Freddie Anderson early on in the regular season. He's only played 8 games this season, and then had a little bit of a tough situation. Lose Freddie Anderson, and now you're left with Antti and Kachetkov. Now Kachetkov, I think his play has proven that he's an NHL goaltender. He's got 3 shutouts in 15 games this season. He's got a 928 save percentage. He's been absolutely stellar for Carolina since coming in. He's been really good. Antti Ratta's played the last 5 starts due to, I think, Kachetkov having a minor injury that they don't want to risk. And Ratta's played really well, especially his last 5 starts. I think he's actually got 8 straight wins, if I'm not mistaken, in his last 8 starts. I know he had a shutout streak that got broken yesterday in the game against the Devils, but Carolina look good. They look really, really good, and I think their goaltending has played a huge role in them being so successful, as well as their decor. But then, moving up to their offense, it's interesting. Nakis had a really good start to the year for him. 36 points in 37 games. Svechnikov's got 32 in 37. Sebastian Aho's got 30 in 30. He's played well, but one guy that I think has gone really under the radar, and a guy that they acquired this summer actually in a trade with the San Jose Sharks, is Brett Burns. 27 points in 37 games.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely fantastic on that blue line, and just kind of like Eric Carlson in San Jose, has had a real resurgence this season in terms of his point production, but also being the main guy in Carolina. I think that it's helped him on the D front as well, and in the points category as well for him. Obviously, he doesn't have the same amount of points as Carlson. Carlson has a lot more, but just in terms of his play, he's been solid. And then just their depth. If you look at their depth, Stefan Nason, Jordan Martinook, Seth Jarvis, Jordan Stahl, all these guys are playing big roles on this team. And so I think that that's a really good sign for things to come. They've had some guys that have really played up to expectations, and then some other guys that aren't really living up to those expectations, and guys like Teuvo Teravainen and Jesperi Kotkaniemi, but they're still putting up decent points. So I think with Carolina, it's going to be interesting because I think that they lack a little bit in the offensive category. I think that apart from Nature, Svechnikov, and Aho, they don't really have that wow factor. And I think their defense has played a big role for them. But getting a guy like Pacioretty back, kind of like you mentioned before, I think is going to be a huge boost for them. And I'm curious to see where he fits into that lineup, and how well he does, because he's going to be a big addition for them. And if he can come in and start putting the puck in the net, this Carolina team could be unstoppable. So that's just kind of where I see it.
Look, just looking at it right now, the Carolina Hurricanes haven't lost in regulation since Wednesday, November 23rd. They
Wow.
did lose in overtime on November 25th against Boston 3-2, but they have won 15 out of the last 16 games. And
Wow.
one of the games the only game they lost in the last 16 games, they lost in overtime against the Anaheim Ducks. Um,
Yeah.
Ranta has 2 shutouts within these last 16 games. Kochetkov has 2 shutouts as well. The goaltending is fantastic, but
Yes,
with
three actually.
oh, he has 3. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for the correction. But Freddie Anderson, he was out with injury last year too. And during the playoffs, Ranta really stood on his head. But with Ranta and Kochetkov now signed to an extension until 2027, 2028, Freddie Anderson is a UFA at the end of this year. So do you think he's gone?
I think that they explore a trade opportunity for a goal with one of their goaltenders come the deadline. I don't know if they trade Freddie Anderson because I don't know where they see Freddie Anderson. I don't know if they see him as the long term solution with Kachetkov and it's going to be a 1A, 1B, or if they stick with Ranta. I think Ranta's played well enough to prove that, he is capable of being in that role with Kachetkov. I think Kachetkov's their future, so I think that they're going to rely on him along with either Ranta or Anderson. But I think with Anderson's injury struggles and everything, I think it makes sense, and I think there's definitely a reason to believe that if he does come back from injury, that he likely gets traded. I don't know where you send him in order for him to potentially get traded. I don't know what teams would really be interested. They haven't really talked about the teams that would be interested, just because I don't think Freddie Anderson is close to returning either. So I don't think that's something that Carolina is really worried about. But I think when you're where you're at and how well you're playing, I don't think that that's a concern for them right now. It'll be more of a concern for them once Freddie Anderson steps on the ice, starts practicing. I know he's practiced a little bit, but starts getting full practices in, and then he starts being ready, close to returning. Then that's going to be a real question mark as to how that's going to go about the whole situation and what you do. Because in my opinion, you can't send down Kachetkov with how well he's playing, and I don't even think you could trade Ranta at this point either. I know you would get a lot for Ranta because Ranta's playing well, but is that really what they want to do? Do they
Well,
want to move Ranta and keep Anderson? I'm not so sure they want to do that.
no, I wouldn't do that because Ranta is $2.5 million cheaper. They're the same age. Ranta, is fairly healthy, even though he dealt with injuries in the past. But Freddie
Yeah,
Anderson seems to be injury prone, even with his time with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, Andrea Cass is set to make a return at some point.
it's
He
true.
got a
Cash as well.
concussion on the opening night for the Carolina Hurricanes, so they're gonna have to clear some cap space because to clear some contracts up and make some cap space because Cass is 1.5, Anderson's 4.5, Pacioretty is $7 million, right? And so they're gonna have to make some adjustments here in terms of who they want to move.
Well,
And we know that Tivo Teravainen is not doing too great. He has another 2 years left on his contract. Then there's Kokaniemi that 4.8 million dollars for the next 8 seasons, and he's not living up to the hype. Maybe that could be a possibility as well.
I don't
They've
think
been
they I don't think they move Kakanyemi. I think they keep him just because they already signed him to that contract. I think the one likely scenario happens is that Teravainen gets moved. He's a guy that I've seen in trade rumors recently, and I think with Carolina, they're not fed up with him, but I think they're at a point now where it's like, listen, he kind of needs a change of scenery. I think he probably becomes the guy that
he's
gets
dealt with a lot
moved.
of injuries too in
Yeah,
in recent years.
that's
So
what I'm saying. So I think he probably gets moved when Pacioretty comes back, and obviously when Freddie Anderson comes back too. But that's going to be interesting because Carolina is going to be a team to watch out for, especially with the fact that they have to move some guys, and they're also a team that's contending, and they might be in the conversation for some free agents come. Some pending free agents come, the trade deadline in the sense where they might try to make a move
yeah.
for a rental. So Carolina's going to
Horvat
be
to
a
name, Puligarvi's another name they've
yeah,
been connected to.
that's it. So I think Carolina is going to be one of the most interesting teams to watch going into the trade deadline in the next 2 months here because, like I said, they're doing really well, but they have guys to trade and they also have guys that they might want to go after to bolster their team in hopes of trying to win the Stanley Cup because they've definitely got the team to do it. And like I said, they have one of the best decors in the league. This is a team that if they can get some offense and just do really well offensively, they can absolutely be a juggernaut. And just to look at a little bit of advanced stats, so this is why I think they need offense more than defense. Goals against, they're actually ranked second in the league in goals against, meaning they have the second best defense in the league. Goals for, they're 18th out of 32, right? So this is a team that isn't scoring as many goals as they would like, but they're keeping the puck out of the net. And I think that that's going to be interesting, especially with Pacioretty coming back. If Pacioretty could come in, make a huge difference. I think I don't know if you touch, I don't know if you put him on the top line just because that top line's been really good. But maybe you put him with Kakanyemi and you see if you can get Kakanyemi going. That could be an option
A bunch
for
of
them. I know
Canadians
Kakanyemi
reunion.
plays on the fourth line, so I don't really know how that would work. But yeah,
But like you were saying, they need more offense than defense, and
Mhm.
I truly, I'm fine with that because I think Jacob Slavin or Jacob Slavin, I don't
Yeah,
know how you
Jacob.
pronounce his first name, but he's one of the most underrated defensemen in the league, offensively and defensively. He's probably one of the best two-way defensemen in the league. You have Brent Burns, who's having a fantastic season. His time with San Jose, he's established himself as one of the best defensemen in the league. But unfortunately, with San Jose, declining over the last couple of years, it was time for a change of scenery, and he's been a fantastic fit for the Carolina Hurricanes. And you have Calvin Dahan, you have Jalen Chatfield, Brandon Pish, um, you have Brady Ski
Shea, Brady
Shea.
Shea.
Yeah, oh my God, yes. It's one of the best defensive, cores in the league, if you ask me. Sure, it's aging in terms of having a guy like Calvin Dahan and Brad Burns there, but it's still a very good team. In terms of what they have, Paul Stastny's up there in age as well. You have Jordan Stahl, who's a UFA. He's been part of trade rumors as well. He's up there in age. Jordan Martin Nuke as well is another guy who's a UFA. He's up there in age, Derek Stepan. But what I like about this team compared to past seasons is that they're a good mix of veterans and of young players that are still going to be capable of bringing success to this team for many years to come. And this team's been very competitive since 2019. They've made the playoffs every year since 2019. In 2019, they lost in the conference finals. In 2020, they lost in the first round. And in 2021 and 2022, they lost in the second round both times. So this team needs to make that push. They need to go for a final run, in terms of trying to go for a Stanley Cup because, this is probably one of the most, I would say, diverse team in terms of like age, in terms of having a good mesh of veterans and young players as well. And I think this is a team that, like Pacioretty and Brent Burns, having those guys, they never won a Stanley Cup. So they would love to have a Stanley Cup. You have Derek Stepan who would probably want to win a Stanley Cup. Paul Stastny who would like to
Yeah,
win a Stanley Cup. Um, Jordan Stahl, Martinuk as well. And obviously there's all the other young guys as well. But this is a team that has competitors, guys that have been in the league for the last decade, right? So these guys know what it takes to win. They have what it takes to win, but they don't have much time to do
and
it. So this is the year for them to go all out and probably be one of the biggest buyers at the deadline.
I wanna say something. So, one guy that I find really interesting is Stefan Nason. He's got 36 games played, 20 points, 8 goals, 12 assists. He's been really good for them. He's actually been really good on the power play for them. I believe he has 10 power play points, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But he's been really, really solid for them, just on the power play, but even as a fourth line depth guy for them. And I think that, like I said before with Carolina, this is a team that, apart from their top three, doesn't really have, that elite player that comes in and makes
But they're
their
fairly
defense.
balanced if you look at the
Yeah,
points.
but I'm saying like their top six is really Nature's Svechnikov and Aho, and then it's really, three really balanced lines. But I think with them, like I said, adding a guy like Pacioretty and even Andre Kasha now, to their mix, they may not need to worry about their offense because they're getting two really good offensive weapons in Pacioretty and Kasha. Kasha, who's a guy that is more of a defensively minded forward, but can put the puck in the net every now and then. And obviously, we all know what Pacioretty is capable of. Consistent 30-goal scorer for the Habs and Vegas when in his times there. I think he's going to come to Carolina and be an absolute difference maker for them. And I we talked about before how they might be a team that's going to be looking for trade deadline acquisitions, but they're also a team that may not look for that just because they're already getting one in Pacioretty. So that's my way of seeing it.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
Cash as well, coming back, two guys that they acquired during the offseason are now coming in to the conversation, especially when this team is so hot, right? So, New
yeah,
Jersey was on top of the Metropolitan for the longest time. Everyone thought they were going to finish first. Then here comes Carolina on a winning streak, and New Jersey starts to slow down. They didn't have a great December, whereas the Hurricanes had a fantastic December, and they didn't have a great November. And now this team is flying colors. And it's good that they have these problems on their hands where they're gonna have a lot of players to to evaluate in terms of who stays and who goes because they have to clear some cap space. So and like you were saying, they're having an internal, addition from Max Pacioretty and Andrea Cass and potentially Frederick Anderson if he returns. So now you have trade, chips on your hands that you could use at the deadline to make your team a lot better. And I know they've been connected to Horvat, saying that maybe they want to bolster their center depth because Aho, Statsny, Stahl, and Kokiniemi is their center core. Kokiniemi, like we're saying, very underwhelming. Jordan Stahl and Statsny, they're experienced, but they're old. So maybe they want to get a little bit younger by adding a guy like Horvat. Then there's Puliarvi, who they could take a chance on, and it would be a great fit because we alluded to this already in our Puliarvi trade destination video. It's a good mix of having young guys, and they took a chance on Kokoniemi, and maybe they could take a chance on um Puliarvi as well. But we'll see what happens. I'm expecting a lot better from guys from like Tivo Teravainen, Seth Jarvis, and Kokiniemi. Hopefully, they step up in the second half of the season or probably in the playoffs. This is definitely a playoff team for me. I see them going to the conference finals, in my honest opinion. I don't know how far you see them going, Luca.
Well, for me, I think that they're up there. They're a team that I think could go to the conference final as well. It's really going to base my decision or the prediction is really going to be based on how well Pacioretty does when he comes back. If he could be, the Pacioretty that everybody expects him to be, then I think they can even win the cup. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's a
how I see it.
possibility as well. But like the saying goes, sometimes you can't change something that's not broken, right?
That's
You
it.
shouldn't change something that's not
If it ain't
broken.
broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly, right? So maybe, even though Pacioretty and Cash are part of the organization, maybe adding them, ruins the chemistry, or maybe it makes them a lot better. But as of right now, they have a lot of players on their hand. They should deal with the situation internally, and they shouldn't really add anyone unless there's injuries or they really feel that they're lacking in a position. Like you were
No,
saying,
yeah.
probably, a superstar presence in terms of maybe, goal scoring. But apart from that, guys, we'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. How far do the Carolina Hurricanes go? Where do they finish in the standings? As of right now, I don't know if I'm gonna go with New Jersey or the Hurricanes to finish first in the Metropolitan. Anything's possible. We're still yet to reach the halfway point, so maybe New Jersey does pick it up. We'll see, or maybe the Carolina Hurricanes continue to surge and storm surge. No pun intended. But guys, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to our channel. We just hit 1.3K, so thank you so much for that. So we're expecting big things in this new year. Like this video. We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below from the Carolina Hurricane fan base. In particular, who would you like to add by the deadline? Do you want to add anybody? Are you excited to have Pacioretty and Cash returning? What do you do with Freddie Anderson coming back? What's the goalie situation? We'd like to hear all your thoughts in the comment section below, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Young Guns podcast.